Hello, I am Nardo D&D, and I do a lot of conversions from 3.5 Dungeons & Dragons to 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, but today I thought I would create a little guide, a DM tips kind of video, if you will. Today I want to share with you all how I run the vast majority of my D&D sessions, one-shots, sometimes entire campaigns, and that is the tried and true method of the 5-room dungeon. Now, what is the 5-room dungeon, you might ask? Surely you're an experienced Dungeons & Dragons adventurer who has ventured and delved into many a dungeon room, and many a dungeon with much more than a mere 5 rooms, so what is it? So the 5-room dungeon, first coined by John 4, that's funny, because his name's John 4, and he made the 5-room dungeon. I thought it was hilarious. I couldn't stop laughing for a week. Doesn't necessarily refer to the 5-room dungeons present in a dungeon, but rather how to structure a fun and engaging storytelling scenario that sometimes can be used in a dungeon or a tower or a glade or a goblin camp. The point is, it doesn't have to be a dungeon, it's just to structure a story. Now, what I want to do in this video is show you guys how I structure my 5-room dungeons, what patterns I follow to decide what to place in each room, and while I do this, I will create alongside you guys a little 5-room dungeon here. So I'm just making a 5-room dungeon, you guys are just on for the ride, is what I'm saying. And the funnest part, I think, about this little experience that we're all gonna go on together, is that after I finish making this 5-room dungeon, I'm gonna run it for 4 of my close friends so that you can see how it interacts in the full scale of it. And that video is out right now, you can go and check it out after this one, or maybe check that one out and then come back to it, and then you can see, oh, that's how that was decided or how that was created. You can watch them in whatever order you want. I think they pair nicely together is what I'm saying. Now, the idea of the 5-room dungeon is to help the dungeon master, that's you in this case. You and me, we're dungeon masters right now, so we have that connection, so the 5-room dungeon is for us. To help design something that will engage the players while not being constantly the same thing repeated ad nauseum. So like you don't do just 7 back-to-back combats and just drag it out that way. So the way I structure it is, now, these have like proper names, but I like calling them the following. Funny Puzzle, that's room 1. Taxing Combat, room 2. Taxing Puzzle, that's room 3. Funny Boss Fight, room 4. And Monkey Pod Treasure Room is the last room of the dungeon. And honestly, if you structure all of your dungeons like this, I'm sure a lot of your players will have a fun time with it and might not even pick up on the pattern. I know my players have not. When I asked them if they've heard of the 5-room dungeon, they were like, what is that? We've been to dungeons with more than that, surely. So let's craft this dungeon. Let's come up with a theme, a name. What is it? Let's call this dungeon, I'm going to call this dungeon the Lair of the Brassican Mage. Now, if you're a little savvy, you know brassican is referring to cabbages, so it's going to be plant themed is what I'm going to do. Now, our Brassican Mage will obviously be the overlord, the ruler of this domain, so we can have him waiting all the way in the boss room. But where will he live? Maybe some old ruins near town and abandoned towers, kind of boring. So how about the old mill at the edge of town? That way it's like a wizard tower, but it can fit into any old town setting, so if you want to just slot in this old dungeon for yourselves, you can. So the party will approach the mill because the town's vegetables and crops are being kidnapped, or stolen might be the better term used for crops and vegetables, in the night. And the local farmers have discovered footprints leading to the old mill. They suspect kobolds or goblins, but I think we can come up with something goofier for these adventurers. As they approach the mill, this is where the 5-room dungeon begins. And if you're running this as a one-shot, I would also recommend beginning here right in front of the mill and not in town, because you will spend 2 hours walking around the town instead of 2 hours exploring the fun stuff you as the dungeon master have prepared in the 5-room dungeon. So something wacky here, the first room of this dungeon is actually outside. It's not in a room. You have to get into the mill, and that is the first challenge, the first room. And if we reference back, that will be the first funny puzzle. Now, approaching the mill will be an old massive structure, reminiscent of a time where the land was more prosperous and the harvest warranted a facility of such immense size. The only visible entrance on the ground level of it will be a large square door, common but sturdy, and here is where we show the ultimate puzzle for any D&D party, the just genre-defining puzzle that is the locked and barred wooden door. As a failsafe, because some adventuring parties, they just cannot overcome the locked and barred door, we can add a little back window to the mill. We can add an entrance along the rear of the mill if the adventurers want to explore back there, maybe like a window that leads into the first floor, but it's overgrown and thick with vines and other vegetation. This presents the players with many ways to enter the dungeon. They could set up like a sting operation where they wait to see what comes out and goes during the night. They could use brute strength or guile, like lockpicking, to force open the door. Maybe they start a fire to clear out the vegetation from the rear and hope the sturdiness of the structure withstands the flames and doesn't burn down the mill so they don't get a reward because of it. Now, the mill itself will be covered in thorny vines of varying size, and these will extend onto the doorway, so the party must overcome seemingly 3 things if they want to go into the windmill via the front door: the lock, the bar, and the vines. Now, the vines covering this windmill are going to go ahead and make them magical in nature. It's what the old Brassican has implemented in his domain to keep birds and other interlopers away while he conducts his researches on his plant-based studies. So if the adventurers attempt to touch the door, the vines will lash out and cause them some kind of piercing damage because of all the thorny barbs. But surely the party will be able to overcome this hurdle and enter inside the mill from one means or the other. Now, the first floor. The inside of the mill on the first floor will be our second room of the dungeon. Here we introduce the taxing combat, something designed to drain a few resources from the party so they don't just blow their load on the boss and make that fight a bit of a laughingstock. Now, this will depend on you and who you want to run it for, but I'm going to plan this combat as though I'm running it against a party of 4 7th level adventurers, which is what I'm doing in the follow-up video to this, so that you guys can see how that turns out. So no need to pull any punches, really. Once the party makes it into the first floor of the mill, they will see a ladder covered in vines leading to the next floor, so they have their target. However, they might be caught off guard by how overgrown this area is. All the surfaces are covered in green foliage. Cabbages litter the floors, and about 6 large, 8-foot tall cabbages will be present throughout this room. As the party enters and takes a few steps around the vegetated areas of the cabbages, they will begin to take notice, they being the cabbages, and begin to flower, opening up, revealing the enemies of this encounter, which is going to be 6 medium-sized, but quite sturdy, cabbage men. One coming from each cabbage will emerge, and this is when we roll initiative. I don't want to outright kill the party, so just wound them and maim them, basically. So we won't add too many extra features. To start, the cabbage men, we're going to give them just a reasonable 2 attacks, +8 to hit, and deal 15 bludgeoning damage with each hit. That is on the high end of damage for this level, I would say, for just a random guy. There's going to be 6 of them, so this could stack up pretty quickly, but they're 7th level. They should be able to handle anything, really. You could throw a CR20 at a 7th level party, they'll figure it out. And just to add some variety, we'll give them a single attack range option where they have a +8 where they throw their cabbage heads and they regrow them, which will be a nice little narrative thing where they remove their heads and they can pop back out, and it'll be very funny. I'll give them a relatively low AC because they're naked, essentially. They're just plants, a little 15 for this level, but they're quite thick and martial in nature, so that's how they get that 15 AC, maybe a combination of natural armor and dexterity. Who's to say you're on the dungeon master side, so you don't have to really make sure everything fits perfectly with the stats. You can alter things. It's okay. Your players won't know. They'll never know. And let's give them each 50 hit points. That's quite low for 7th level. A good 7th level character can probably one-shot that, given the right circumstances. But there's 6 of them, so that should be fine. I'm only planning for 4, so if each of the players one-shot one of these things, then this will be 2 to show off what they do and maybe hurt them a little bit. Now, there's more to a combat than just 6 dudes, because that'd be kind of boring. I do like borrowing stuff from other monsters, and these things are kind of Frankenstein experiments made by the Brassican Mage. So I'm gonna borrow the Shambling Mound thing, where if they take lightning damage, they heal that much instead, just for fun, and on the off chance that someone brings lightning damage. I don't know what the odds are of that happening, but it could be funny if it does come up. So now that we have the main guys, let's add some minions, because minions are a cool feature the 4th edition introduced, and I love including them in my games because there's something fun about putting 30 minis on a battle map. So what a minion is, if you don't know, it's just a little guy with 1 hit point who just does stuff on the battlefield. He just has 1 hit point. He doesn't die to saving throws from half damage, at least the way I run them, and they can't die from a missed attack. So if you have that weapon mastery still deals some damage, you don't get to do that on the little minions. You have to land the hit to kill them. So I think on initiative count that I will roll like to spawn these minions. Each cabbage man will grow a small cabbage out of them, like out of their back or their front or their hand or something. And then that will be like a living little cabbage that'll start rolling around and attacking the players. They'll have like 1 hit point like a minion, like a +4 to hit and 4 bludgeoning damage if they manage to land a hit. Imagine them as like little guys with little whippy arms, little whippy vines coming out of a cabbage, and they're just like flailing around. So that's all cool. That should be plenty of like bodies to engross the players, to have them look at this encounter like, oh, this is kind of a serious combat. We should pull out some more stops, use some resources here. Now let's do something with the environment. We said this place is overgrown, so we can make some tiles here with vines coming out of the big cabbages that sprouted the cabbage men, the big ones. If a character steps on one of these tiles, they can be subject to a dexterity save, like the vines come up and try to grab them. Now we can make this doesn't have to be too high. It just has to be like a ever-present threat, an ever-present thing that they have to think about, like, oh, don't step on that one, that'd be bad. Make it like a DC 12, and if they fail, they're restrained. They can spend an action with like a DC to try the DC 12 dex save or DC 12 athletics check or acrobatics check to try to escape the vines. Maybe even they can burn them off with like fire or slash them off. Well, you could decide at the time, depending on how you feel and how crippled the party is. If they all manage to get themselves caught somehow, you can decide how easy it is getting out of these things. And I think that should be challenging enough for a combat. Now, if you're running this as a one-shot, you have to keep in mind that your players never played these characters before, so if they're having trouble running them in combat, you should be mean and berating, because they were the ones that made the character. Why would they bring something that they didn't understand? That's messed up and an insult to you. So you have the right to be upset about someone taking too long on their turns. So you go ahead and do that. Make sure you really point it out, because the more you point it out, the less it's going to happen. So that's good. Now moving on. Once the heroes defeat the encounter, they can ascend up the wooden ladder, or, figure out a way to go up the opening in the ceiling if the wooden ladder was exploded or destroyed during the combat, and they get to the next floor. This is the taxing puzzle room of the 5-room dungeon, room number 3. Here, we want to create like a very simple puzzle that will injure the party if they do it wrong. And I don't know how to say this without sounding too mean, but when you play D&D, you become stupid. I'm guilty of this as well. I become very stupid when I play D&D. You can blame it on role-playing an 8-int character, which is actually a very fun reason to be dumb in D&D. It's fun to roleplay a dumb character. It's just a happy time. Solving very complicated puzzles will take several hours, days even maybe. That's why the first puzzle of this dungeon was just a barred, locked wooden door, and I expect that to take 40 minutes. And you can go and check to see if I'm right on that in the video that's coming up where we actually play through this. So this puzzle, this puzzle in the 3rd room, will have to be straightforward, but still have the outward appearance of being a real puzzle. So we will have 2 fruit-crushing box machines that can crush fruit or vegetables, or really anything else that gets placed in them. These will feed into a big vat. Now, on the other side of the room, there will be a trough with an assortment of vegetables to choose from. There will be a wall blocking off progression, covered in thorny vines to stop the heroes, with a door on it that we can just say is unlocked, but still covered in vines, so that if the heroes try to go to open the door, the vines will slap them and spike them real good. However, if they just burn the vines, they can, just walk through the door. Now, the objective for this area, the puzzle objective for this area, will be for the heroes to concoct the thing that feeds the wall vine so they can retract, and then they can proceed through the door. Now, they do this by collecting the right kind of vegetables and putting them in the crushing machines and feeding that into the vat. I might add something about how when they squeeze them, they produce way more liquid than it appears that they should, because the pipes are magic or something, and the vat fills up all the way, even though the little crushing machines are a lot smaller than the big vat. And that could be funny. If they do it right. If they do it wrong, then they'll just have to dump out the thing. And just make it's kind of like that show, if you've ever seen it. It's run by the guy from Community. It's a cooking show where they have to sniff around a kitchen and figure out what was previously cooked there and then recreate it. So basically just leave hints of what was the recipe used to feed the vines. So I think it could be just a bit of residue in the vat, a player could smell that, or survival or nature check it, or something check it. And it's like, you just tell them it's tomatoes, it's chili peppers, and it's cabbage. Like, you just tell them the three things exactly, and then they'll think about that for a while, and they're like, oh, I know the answer. Maybe you have them inspect the plants and see what they like to eat. If maybe holding different vegetables to the vines, they react in different ways. Something along those lines. Maybe check the squeeze box machinery to see if they have anything there. Oh, something great you can have in the trough, like 18 tomatoes, 18 chili peppers, and then 30 of every other fruit you mentioned. So it looks like there's less of the chili pepper and the tomatoes there, so that they can like come to the conclusion like, oh, these were used in the last one, like something like that. Like just keep giving them hint. Like, don't never stop telling them the answer. Essentially, that's how you do a puzzle. Every time they like go to investigate something, just make something up that'll lead them towards the correct answer, and they'll feel like geniuses eventually. And it's amazing. Is a gay old time. I always feel like a genius when I am on the other side of this. But today we're the dungeon master, so we get to see how the cake is made. And if all else fails and they can't figure anything out, they're just too dumb, they can just burn down the vines and walk through the door and open it that way. So that's all fine as well, because the door's not locked, you know? Now, as they finally get through that puzzle room, they will have the funny boss. Room number 4. We're almost there to the end. Now the party will enter or bust into the domain of the Brassican Mage. It's like the half circle shaped room because it's a windmill and the room was bisected before by the other wall. So you have it covered in research equipment, vegetables, piles of old paper. He's like really been busy. That's something very important to consider at this point in the dungeon, that you as the dungeon master will have to like make a on the spot decision, an on the spot read of the room. You're gonna have to read the room. You're gonna have to gauge people's how everyone's reacting. Especially if you're doing this in a one-shot. It is how long you've been playing for. And I find that one-shot should not be more than 3 hours. You can go a little over, but not too much. You don't want to get closer to 4 hours, and that's too many times. You've kidnapped your people for too long. You gotta let them go. Unless you have like a group of goons that are down to play for 9-hour session. But other than that, like, a one-shot should be 3 hours. People have other stuff to do. They've like agreed to do this for you, especially if it's their first time playing D&D. You absolutely want to like just cut it off then. So if you have been playing for 2 hours already by the time the heroes enter this room, just make the Brassican Mage like a funny guy that's just mildly annoyed that are in his house, and he'll let them search around. He doesn't put up much of an argument if they just like walk around. He'll talk to them a lot. He'll tell them about his research. You can make up stuff about how he's trying to make like the perfect meal replacement, or how he's trying to turn vegetables into cabbages, like make all vegetables cabbages, and like how he wants to make cabbages the ultimate food in the world, you know, that kind of thing. And you can like share his notes, make some tea, give him some cabbages, that kind of thing. And he can just say like, oh, I'm squatting. And maybe they do some kind of diplomacy where they convince him like, oh, it's much better to like leave them at windmill or something, or it would be much better if he just maybe integrates into the town, maybe runs a windmill for them, something along those lines, right? However, if you're actually like good on time and you want to do the fight, this is what I would do with the boss fight of the Brassican Mage, right? So how do we make this fight against a single caster more interesting? Well, let's make him not just a single caster. Give the Brassican Mage an action to roll a d4 and summon that many cabbagemen from before. So that could be quite overwhelming as it stacks up. Something I like doing in a final fight is adding some kind of initiative count 20 mechanic. For this, I think I'll have the Brassican Mage transform one of the party members into a cabbage, like a polymorph spell. This will drop them in initiative to the bottom so that they can still have their turn if they're rescued, and require one other party member to like eat the cabbage with a bonus action to reconstitute them. Kind of like if you're polymorphed and someone stabs you as the frog, you get turned back into yourself, right? It's the same principle, magic-wise. I'd have the Brassican Mage be very clear about yelling out how the only way to turn you back is to laugh and gloat about it, like how you will have to eat your friend in order to turn him back, hee hee hee. But like, just make sure the mechanic is clear to the players so that they don't just, oh, that player's dead. Other than that, I think just have fun with the fight. Give him like a throw vegetables attack where he like deals 20 bludgeoning damage as he like throws a thing. Give him a bonus action to like avoid opportunity attacks so he can run away. That way you keep your players moving, and the more you move your mini, the more fun you're having, honestly. Movement is like the most important stat in any video game, and it's important to make movement fun in Dungeons and Dragons. So you want to like let the mage, let the little Brassican guy run around and be annoying, and like let them chase after him. Give him 100 health, AC 16, +9 to hit, and golden. Like, what else do you need? make up some other stats if he needs to do a saving throw. He's probably strong, like if you want to make him like a big strong guy. Like if you just want to make like a big buff, like a dude who's been eating like cabbage steroids the entire time. Like you make him that, or you could just make him like a little frail wizard if you want to make like if you're trying to pick up the fight, just make a frail wizard, 50 health maybe instead. But if he does get killed, the cabbage men that he summons just wither and collapse. You know, nothing to worry about there, because like his power is sustaining it. All the vines like wither and die if he dies, because he's like the one sustaining it with his magic, his constant throughput of energy or whatever. Now, you've defeated the Brassican, or the party has defeated the Brassican mage. The party has convinced him to leave. There's still one more ladder in his room that leads up to his living quarters. Now, this is the final room of the dungeon. All that's left is a reward for your brave adventures. One more vine-covered ladder leads up to the top floor of the windmill. Big quotation marks around top floor. You can have this be the living quarters of the Brassican mage. If it's a one-shot, just have the place be completely filled with gold cabbages, like absolutely life-changing amounts of wealth. Like the cabbages are big, solid gold. You can have research notes that shows how he learned to transmute cabbages, but he just didn't care that he'd learned how to do that and just threw them into storage all over the place, because he's more focused on making other vegetables into cabbages, like that kind of thing. Otherwise, if it's part of an overarching campaign, maybe like 1 or 5 gold cabbages, depending on how rich you want your players to be. Some magic items, maybe you can come up with something that's like cabbage themed. But if you're feeling a bit spicy, you can lean into the fact that there's something off about this mill, how the blades of it don't spin, how there's no millstone on the first floor, how there's no pillar. We never mentioned a pillar going up and down the middle of it. With a bit of perception or investigation, the heroes discover another trapdoor on the ceiling inside the Brassican mage's living quarters. One that the Brassican mage wasn't even aware of. And here it can be revealed that the real reason the townsfolk so desperately wanted to reclaim the mill is a temple to honor some kind of dark god. Marks on the floor and walls denoting sacrifice, and a far too ornate and unsettling statue, way too massive to have been moved into this place. Must have been built here. And with that cliffhanger, you can scam your players into wanting to play D&D with you again, and in the end, that's the goal of any game, that when you finish it, you want to re-rack and go again. Now, I'd like to reiterate, I have run this dungeon for a group of D&D experts, big quotation marks around experts, and you can go and look at it right now and see all of this put into action, maybe get a feel for the dungeon and run it yourself. That video is out right now, and it's free, just click away, go look at it. It's up in the top right now. Look, it's right there. Amazing. If you really liked this dungeon creation video, I would greatly appreciate a like on this video. If you have concerns or questions, I'd be happy to answer them in the comments below. And if you want to stay tuned for what I come out with next, whether that be more stuff like this, a new prestige class, new cantrips, new races, new magic items, the best way to do that for free is to subscribe to the channel. I do weekly uploads, so there's always something coming up. Now, if you want to grow up and to be big and strong, eat your cabbages.